More than 100 ships are about to cross an ocean that is hunting them, and the hunters will never know they were there. They leave Hampton Roads in small groups, at different hours, on different headings, as if they have nothing to do with each other. Tankers steer south, transports steer east, escort carriers slip out with the morning tide. No two groups sail the same course. No harbor sees them all at once. Because somewhere across the Atlantic, men are being paid to notice exactly this. Agents with binoculars, analysts with charts, submarines waiting on the shipping lanes. One report is all it takes. For 2 days, the formations scatter across the western Atlantic. Then, far from shore, beyond the sight of any watcher on any coast, they begin to turn toward each other. By the last week of October 1942, they are one body. Over 100 ships moving in ordered columns across open ocean. Most of the soldiers aboard do not know where they are going. Sealed orders sit in ship safes. Some men were told Scotland, some guessed the Pacific. The transports carry maps in crates that cannot be opened until a specific signal arrives. The men clean weapons, run drills on deck, and study coastlines with no names attached. The man commanding the naval force, Rear Admiral Henry Kent Hewitt, has a problem no drill can fix. His destination has surf conditions that can rise without warning and swallow landing craft whole. His weather forecasts must reach across an entire ocean, and his route runs directly through water where German submarines have been sinking Allied ships at a rate the Atlantic has never seen before. A single torpedo into a loaded transport would announce everything. Aboard the cruiser Augusta rides the ground commander, Major General George Patton. His troops are green. Most have never heard a shot fired at them. His landing tables are built on tide charts and hope. Before sailing, he wrote to his wife that he would either succeed or not come back. Now he spends the crossing reading, pacing, and rehearsing a landing that has never been attempted at this scale, this far from home. No army has ever tried to invade a hostile shore directly from its own home ports, across 4,000 miles of ocean, far to the east. At U-boat headquarters in Paris, Admiral Karl Donitz reads the intercepts and harbor reports coming out of the Strait of Gibraltar. Ships are massing there. That much is visible to any agent with binoculars on the Spanish shore. The question is what the massing means. The pattern looks familiar. The British have run supply convoys to the starving island fortress of Malta before, and every one of them staged exactly like this. The conclusion writes itself: Malta again. It is a reasonable reading. It matches everything German naval doctrine expects. The Mediterranean is where Allied shipping concentrates. Malta is where it goes. And so the response follows the reading. U-boats hold their patrol lines for a Mediterranean convoy run, positioned for a battle that will never come, while the actual invasion force crosses the Atlantic on a track no German planner has drawn. The boats are waiting in the right ocean for the wrong war. There is a second reason Berlin is not looking west, and it is 9,000 miles away. On a jungle island in the Solomons, the United States is bleeding. Marines of the 1st Division under Major General Alexander Vandegrift hold a shallow perimeter around a captured airstrip called Henderson Field. They have held it since August. They hold it on reduced rations, through malaria, through bonsai assaults out of the tree line at night, and through the ships. The Japanese Navy owns the water after dark. Cruisers and battleships run down the channel the Marines call the Slot and stand offshore, firing salvo after salvo into the perimeter. One October night, 2 Japanese battleships spend 90 minutes working over Henderson Field with 14-inch shells. By morning, most of the aircraft on the field cannot fly. Aviation fuel burns in pools. Men dig deeper, In late October, the carriers meet off the Santa Cruz Islands. The USS Hornet, the ship that launched the Doolittle raid on Tokyo, takes bombs and torpedoes and goes down. For a stretch of days, the United States has exactly one operational aircraft carrier in the entire Pacific Ocean, and that one is damaged. This is the war Berlin can see. This is the war that makes sense of everything. German strategic planning has rested for a year on a simple arithmetic. America is powerful but slow, and Japan will absorb that power for years. Every report from the Pacific confirms it. The Americans are locked in a grinding fight for a single airstrip and losing capital ships to hold it. A nation fighting that hard in one ocean cannot possibly be preparing a major offensive in another. The arithmetic is sound. The assumption underneath it is not. Because on the first days of November, as the Guadalcanal perimeter braces for the next Japanese push, Hewitt's 100 ships are refueling at sea in mid-Atlantic, a maneuver practiced until it runs in darkness and turning southeast. The sealed orders are open now. The crated maps are on mess tables. The coastlines finally have names: Safi, Fadala, Media. The Atlantic shore of French Morocco, not Malta, not even the Mediterranean. An entirely separate invasion, aimed at a country the Germans do not occupy, defended by French forces whose loyalty no one, not Washington, not London, not Vichy, can predict. And that is the unsolved problem riding with the fleet. The beaches ahead are not held by Germans. They are held by Frenchmen, with coastal guns, a modern battleship in Casablanca harbor, and standing orders to resist any invader. Whether they will obey those orders is the one question the entire operation turns on. 3 weeks earlier, in the dark, off the Algerian coast, an American general climbed out of a British submarine to try to answer it. The house stands alone on a cliff above an empty beach 60 miles west of Algiers. In the early dark of October 21st, a British submarine, HMS Seraph, surfaces offshore and puts 4 collapsible canvas canoes into the swell. The men paddling them ashore include 3 American officers and a team of British commandos. The senior American is Major General Mark Clark, Eisenhower's deputy, the second-ranking officer of an invasion whose fleet is already loading. If the French police catch him, the entire operation is exposed. Clark has come because of a signal from Robert Murphy, the American diplomat in Algiers who has spent a year quietly mapping which French officers might refuse to fight an American landing, and which would welcome one. Murphy's key contact is Major General Charles Mast, a senior French commander in Algeria willing to risk a firing squad to talk. Mast wants details, dates, landing sites, proof the Americans are serious. Clark can confirm almost nothing. The date is days away, and he is forbidden to say so. Through the day of October 22nd, in the Cliff House, the two sides trade what they can. Mast sketches French troop positions, coastal battery locations, which commanders will cooperate. He asks for arms for resistance groups. He presses for an American supreme commander. The French will not fight for the British, not after the Royal Navy shelled the French fleet at Mers el-Kebir in 1940 and killed nearly 1,300 French sailors in 6 minutes. That wound is 2 years old and still open. It is the reason every flag going ashore in the landings will be American. Then, near midnight, headlights. The French police, tipped that something is happening at the house, arrive to search it. The owner stalls them at the door. Clark and his officers grab their papers and drop through a trapdoor into an empty wine cellar. The deputy commander of the coming invasion crouches in the dark, holding a carbine, listening to police boots on the floorboards above him. The police leave without opening the trapdoor. The sea nearly finishes what the police missed. The surf has risen through the night, and the first attempt to launch the canoes rolls them. Clark is pitched into the water. His trousers, with money and papers weighted in the pockets, go to the bottom. Near dawn, soaked and stripped to his shorts, he gets off the beach on the second attempt and back aboard Seraph. He carries home a half answer. Some of the French will help. No one can say how many, or whether the ones who matter will act in time. The man waiting for that answer sits inside a rock. At Gibraltar, engineers have carved command chambers deep into the tunnels. And in early November, Lieutenant General Dwight Eisenhower arrives to run the invasion from them. Water drips from the ceilings. The air is stale enough that officers step outside just to breathe. From this cave, he must coordinate 3 separate landing forces. 1 from America, 2 from Britain, converging on a coast where he cannot tell friend from enemy until the shooting starts, or doesn't. His own staff's estimates of French resistance run from token shots to full-scale battle. Both estimates come from the same intelligence. The Axis, meanwhile, is watching Gibraltar too. It is impossible not to. Spanish observers count every ship entering the anchorage. Aircraft crowd the airfield wingtip to wingtip. The reports flow to Berlin and Rome, and the analysts fit them to the familiar pattern: a Malta convoy, perhaps a landing behind Rommel's army in Libya, where the British have just broken through at El Alamein and sent the Africa Corps into retreat. The retreat itself helps the misreading. With Rommel falling back, a landing at Tripoli or Benghazi to cut him off makes military sense. Morocco and Algeria make none. They are Vichy French, neutral, and attacking them means starting a new war with a country Germany has not occupied. German planners keep asking what the Allies would logically do. The Allies are about to do something else. On November 5th, Eisenhower's own passage nearly ends the question early. He flies to Gibraltar through storm weather in a B-17 that crosses occupied airspace low enough to be shot at. He arrives to find the eastern convoys already inside the Mediterranean, past the watching agents, committed. Whatever the French decide, the ships can no longer turn around. Then, on November 7th, the final day, Murphy's cables from Algiers deliver news no plan accounted for. Admiral François Darlan is in the city. Darlan is not one more colonial officer. He is the commander-in-chief of all Vichy French armed forces, the second man of the Vichy regime, the officer whose word every French soldier and sailor in Africa will actually obey. Mast can deliver a division. Darlan can deliver, or deny, everything. He has not come for the war. His son, Alain, lies in an Algiers hospital, paralyzed by polio, and Darlan has flown from France to his bedside. Murphy now faces a choice with hours on the clock. The conspiracy he has built runs through officers who despise Darlan as a collaborator, and the one man who can stop the bloodshed with a sentence is asleep in the same city, knowing nothing. Offshore, in the dark, the landing craft are already swinging out on their davits. Just after midnight on November 8th, Robert Murphy drives to a villa in the hills above Algiers and wakes the commander of French ground forces in North Africa, General Alphonse Juin, to tell him that an American invasion fleet is standing off the coast, not coming someday, but now, tonight, within the hour. Juin's first response is not about the Americans. He tells Murphy that Darlan is in the city, and that Darlan outranks him. So Darlan is summoned, and shortly after 1 in the morning, the second man of Vichy France stands in a villa drawing room in his pajamas, listening to an American diplomat ask him to order a ceasefire for landings that have already begun. Witnesses record his face going purple. He paces the room. He says the British lied to him for 2 years, But he had believed the Americans were more intelligent than this. He will send a message to Marshal Pétain in Vichy. He will not order anything on his own. While he drafts it, events outside the villa remove his options one at a time. Pro-Allied French conspirators, the network Mast and Murphy built, seize the telephone exchange, the radio station, and police headquarters in Algiers, and for several hours the invasion's opponents cannot even transmit orders. Then Vichy loyalists retake the buildings, and the guards around the villa change sides, and Murphy briefly finds himself under arrest at the very meeting he arranged. The men holding the guns keep changing. The landings do not wait for any of them. Along the coast, the plan is already colliding with the sea. At the beaches flanking Algiers, landing craft crews navigating by darkness and unfamiliar shorelines put whole battalions down miles from their assigned sectors. Boats broach in the surf. Units wade ashore mixed together, officers sorting men by shouting in the dark. And then, at most beaches, the thing no planner could promise: near silence. Scattered shots. In some sectors, French troops stand down within hours. Oran is different. Oran fights. And at Oran, the plan contains its most dangerous idea. Two small British cutters, HMS Walney and HMS Heartland, are to charge directly into the harbor mouth before the port can be sabotaged, carrying nearly 400 American infantrymen between them. The assumption underneath the mission is that French resistance will be light. That assumption steams into the harbor at 3 in the morning and meets a French destroyer and shore batteries firing at ranges measured in yards. Walney's commander, Captain Frederick Peters, takes her through the boom and into a crossfire that wrecks the bridge around him. Both cutters are shot to pieces inside the harbor. Hundreds of the soldiers and sailors aboard are killed or wounded. The survivors go into captivity before dawn. Peters, blinded in one eye, is among the few pulled from the water alive. He will receive the Victoria Cross for it and die 5 days later in a flying boat crash on his way home. 400 miles west, on the Atlantic coast, Hewitt's Moroccan gamble is paying and costing at the same time. The surf at Fadala, the forecast risk that shadowed the whole crossing, stays just low enough to land and still smashes landing craft by the dozen against the beach. Green troops come ashore seasick, soaked, separated from their units and their heavy weapons. The shoreline by morning is littered with broached and splintered boats. Then, Casablanca harbor opens fire. The French battleship Jean Bart lies at her pier, unfinished, unable to sail, but carrying one working turret of 15-inch guns. She engages the American covering force, and the battleship USS Massachusetts answers with 16-inch salvos at long range. One shell jams Jean Bart's turret and silences her. French destroyers and submarines sortie from the harbor into the American formation, pressing attacks against cruisers and transports through the morning. It is close, fast, and lethal. The only fleet action fought between France and the United States. By the time it ends, most of the French squadron is sunk, burning, or beached. Patton comes ashore at Fadala, into the wreckage of his landing tables, and starts fixing the beach by force of presence. Recorded striding through the surf line, restarting stalled boat crews. His problem now is not the enemy in front of him, but the arithmetic behind him. Ammunition and vehicles are coming ashore at a fraction of the planned rate, and Casablanca's defenses have not surrendered. In Algiers, the arithmetic runs the other way. By evening on November 8th, with American and British troops closing on the city and his communications gone, Darlan authorizes a local ceasefire for Algiers alone. Oran fights on. Morocco fights on. Frenchmen and Americans are killing each other at 2 of the 3 objectives, while the one man who could stop all of it negotiates hour by hour, glancing over his shoulder at Vichy. And while every eye is fixed on the beaches, the actual race is starting somewhere else. 400 miles east of Algiers lies Tunisia. Its ports a short sail from Sicily, its airfields empty. The Allied plan always assumed those airfields could be reached before the Germans reacted. In East Prussia, the reaction is already forming, and the man forming it is boarding a train to Munich. The special train is somewhere between East Prussia and Bavaria when the first reports catch up with it. Hitler is traveling to Munich for the annual speech to the Old Party faithful, the anniversary of the 1923 Beer Hall Putsch, a fixture of the Nazi calendar he has never missed in wartime. The train makes scheduled stops so couriers can hand fresh signals aboard. The signals from the night of November 8th describe landings across a 900-mile front of French North Africa. The location is the Shock, not Libya, behind Rommel, the reasonable target, not Malta. The Americans and British have gone where German planning assigned no probability at all, into territory whose defense depends entirely on Frenchmen. And the first question in every signal is the same one Eisenhower has been asking from his tunnel. What will the French do? Hitler's answer is to stop trusting the question. On November 10th, Darlan, cornered, cut off, and finally convinced Pétain's public disavowals are cover for private consent, broadens his ceasefire to all of French North Africa. French troops in Oran and Morocco stop shooting. Casablanca surrenders to Patton without the final assault he had scheduled for that very morning. The next dawn, German columns cross the demarcation line into unoccupied France. Case Anton. The contingency plan for seizing Vichy's free zone rolls on November 11th with barely a shot fired. The armistice that has governed France since 1940 is dead. Panzer units drive for the Mediterranean coast, and one objective stands above the rest: Toulon, the naval base holding the French fleet. Battleships, cruisers, the ships whose allegiance both sides have courted for 2 years. For the moment, the Germans stop at the base perimeter, accepting French promises that the fleet will scuttle rather than sail to the Allies. The promise is left standing like a fuse. Tunisia cannot wait for promises. Within 72 hours of the landings, German transport aircraft begin shuttling from Sicily into the airfields around Tunis, the empty airfields the Allied plan was racing for. Fighter units fly in first, then infantry by air and fast convoy. The French commander in Tunisia, caught between Darlan's ceasefire and Vichy's orders, lets the first German aircraft land unopposed. The gap the Allies meant to close in days begins filling from the other direction. In Munich on November 9th, Hitler stands before the party old guard and reframes the week. He mocks the Allied leaders. He announces, in the same speech, that Stalingrad is essentially in German hands, that no second Verdun will be fought there, that time no longer matters. 2 armies' fates are pronounced settled in one evening. Within 2 weeks, Soviet pincers will close behind Stalingrad, and the boast will become a trap he refuses to escape. The decision on North Africa is cut from the same cloth. No withdrawal, no economy of force. Tunisia will be held, a new bridgehead, fed across a narrow strait, under air attack. At the far end of a supply line, the Royal Navy and RAF are already cutting, reinforced not despite the risk, but as a demonstration that Germany concedes nothing. And then, while Munich is still digesting Africa, the other track arrives. Off Guadalcanal, In the first minutes of Friday, November 13th, an American force of cruisers and destroyers steams into the channel north of Henderson Field to block a Japanese bombardment group built around two battleships. Radar sees the enemy first. The advantage is lost in hesitation and garbled orders, and the two formations interpenetrate in the dark before the shooting starts. Ships passing so close that battleship guns cannot depress far enough to hit destroyers alongside. What follows is often called the most savage surface action of the war. Searchlights snapping on at point-blank range, torpedoes running under keels, ships firing into friend and enemy alike. The American commander, Rear Admiral Daniel Callahan, is killed on his flagship's bridge. Rear Admiral Norman Scott dies the same night aboard the cruiser Atlanta. The cruiser Juno, torpedoed and limping away at daylight, is hit again by a submarine and disintegrates. But the Japanese battleship Hiei, crippled, is caught by aircraft after dawn and lost. And the bombardment of Henderson Field does not happen. The airfield survival is the hinge. Over the next 2 nights, American aircraft flying from the strip they still hold, joined by 2 fast battleships on the night of November 14th to 15th, wreck the follow-up bombardment force and slaughter a troop convoy carrying an entire Japanese division. Transports burn and beach themselves. Of the reinforcement the convoy carried, only a fragment reaches shore, without most of its equipment or food. When the water calms on November 15th, the accounting is brutal on both sides. But the Americans still hold the island, the airfield, and now the sea around them at night. Set the 2 dates side by side. November 8th, American troops storm ashore in Africa. November 13th through 15th, an American fleet breaks a Japanese offensive in the Solomons. 1 week, 2 oceans, the arithmetic German planning rested on. That the Pacific would absorb America for years has not been argued against. It has been demonstrated against, in public, in 7 days. And Hitler's answer to the demonstration is already in motion. The air bridge to Tunis is thickening daily. Men and machines flowing into a bridgehead with the sea at its back. The fuse left standing at Toulon burns for 16 days. On November 27th, German armored columns break the standstill and drive into the naval base to seize the French fleet at its moorings. The prize that would remake the Mediterranean balance in a morning. They arrive to the sound of demolition charges. The French crews execute the order their admirals swore they would, scuttling. Battleships settle at their piers. Cruisers roll over in the harbor mud. Fires burn along the waterfront for days. 77 ships, nearly the whole fighting strength of the French Navy in home waters, go to the bottom in hours, denied to Germany and denied to the Allies alike. The fleet both sides spent 2 years courting chooses the seabed. Darlan, the man whose word had governed that fleet, does not live to see the year end. On December 24th, in his headquarters in Algiers, a young French monarchist shoots him dead. The assassin is tried and executed within 2 days. The questions about who armed him and why are never fully closed. In the Pacific, the arithmetic set on November 15th runs to its conclusion. Japan attempts no more major reinforcement of Guadalcanal. Through December, the soldiers already on the island starve on roots and grass, while American strength ashore doubles. In the first week of February 1943, Japanese destroyers slip in at night and take the survivors off. On February 9th, the island is declared secure. Of more than 30,000 Japanese soldiers sent to Guadalcanal, roughly 2/3 never leave it. Most dead, not from bullets, but from hunger and disease at the end of a supply line that could no longer reach them. Tunisia takes longer and costs more, precisely because the bridgehead is fed so well. Through the winter, the air bridge and convoys, Hitler ordered pour 250,000 German and Italian troops into the Tunisian pocket. In February, they maul inexperienced American units at Kasserine Pass, a defeat that forges the U.S. Army more than it damages it. But the sea behind the bridgehead belongs increasingly to Allied ships and aircraft, reading German convoy schedules through decoded signals. Fuel arrives in trickles, ammunition is rationed, the pocket shrinks toward the coast it cannot escape across. On May 7, 1943, the British enter Tunis and the Americans enter Bizerte. 6 days later, it is over. Somewhere near 250,000 Axis soldiers march into captivity, a surrender on the scale of Stalingrad, 3.5 months after Stalingrad, and this time, including the veteran corps of the army that once threatened Egypt. German soldiers name it Tunisgrad. The men lost there are the men who will not defend Sicily, or Italy, or Normandy. Every one of them was placed in the pocket by the decision made on a train to Munich. The refusal to concede a coastline doubled into a refusal to withdraw from it. The week itself, November 8th to 15th, 1942, settles into history as the turning of the war's tide. Churchill orders church bells rung across Britain for the first time since 1940. In North Africa, the United States has forced open a second front against Germany. In the Solomons, it has broken the Japanese Navy's last sustained offensive. The premise underneath Axis grand strategy, that American power divided is American power neutralized, is gone, and no conference in Berlin or Tokyo ever finds a replacement for it. Among the ships lost, proving it was the cruiser Juno, torn apart by a torpedo on the morning of November 13th as she withdrew from the night battle. Roughly 100 men survived the sinking. After 8 days adrift, 10 were rescued. Aboard her had served 5 brothers from Waterloo, Iowa: George, Francis, Joseph, Madison, and Albert Sullivan, who had enlisted together on one condition, put in writing, that they serve on the same ship. The Navy granted it. Their parents learned the news in January, when 3 men in uniform came to the door and their father asked, "Which one?" The answer was, "All 5. And the ships that started it all, the scattered groups slipping out of Hampton Roads on different headings, tankers south, transports east, carriers with the morning tide, a formation pretending not to be a formation, are readable now. They were never a convoy. They were never bound for Malta. They were one half of a single week in which the United States landed an army on one side of the world and won a fleet action on the other, while the men paid to watch them held their submarines on station in the wrong sea, waiting for a pattern that no longer described the enemy they were fighting. The U-boats guarded the map they understood. The war had left the map. In Waterloo, Iowa, a park by the Cedar River still carries the name Sullivan.